Hello and welcome to Native Yoga Center. My name is Todd McLaughlin. We have a pose in Ashtanga Yoga called Marichyasana C, which is a twisting pose. And Marichyasana C is where we bend, in this case, right knee, right hand on floor, left arm reach up, twist, take the arm, wrap around the leg, connect the hands together behind the back, and then look over, in this case, right shoulder. And both sides, obviously, right and left. The left side, left knee bend, heel near hip, lean back, create twist, connect body to thigh, wrap the arm, and catch. Twist. Hold for 5 breaths. Easier said than done though. So let me give you a couple of pointers on how to approach the Marichyasana C. Marichyasana C, if done modified, can be a very good beginner's yoga pose, a yoga pose for beginners, because it's a relatively gentle, easy twisting posture. And for those of you that have any sort of back issues, you might have to be careful with twisting. So this first way that we can practice Marichyasana C is going to be a nice, simple way to go about the posture. And also I want you to focus on your breath. So you're able to breathe the whole time that you're practicing these twists. So the first thing to do is take the right leg and bring the heel near the hip. And when you bring your leg near your hip, this is called hip flexion. If it's tight here and we don't have the ability yet to flex at the hips and bring the leg and the body together, then we might need to support with our hand on the floor behind and see if we can bring the heel, the right heel, as close to the hip as possible. The alignment of the foot in relation to the straight leg will be about a hands width gap or about a yoga block width gap. And the other way to measure it is to take the outer ankle bone, the lateral malleolus, and have it be about the width of the outside edge of your hip. Very similar to the setup of the Marichyasana A. In Marichyasana A, we're going forward bending. In Marichyasana C, we're twisting with that right leg bent up. So now that you have the alignment of the foot, where to place it, the next part is, yes, we are attempting to close this gap between our calf and hamstring. So I want you to try to pull or bring the heel as close to the hip as you can. If you have knee pain, you're going to have to modify, so you might have to bring the leg a little more open. But over time, by working the range of motion with your knee, it's going to slowly reshape and rebuild, unless you have something really serious going on. All right, so from here, you pull the heel in close to the hip, and by leaning back on the hand on the floor behind you, if you take the left arm, in this case, because our right knee is bent, and you grab a hold of the knee, you just use the arm, you bend the elbow, you catch the knee. And now notice what I'm doing with my spine. I'm flexing my spine. So this is spinal flexion. This is spinal extension. In extension, we extend and lift. In flexion, we round and forward fold. So when we are twisting, we need to be aware, A, of any pain sensation that might occur in the back, and B, how to manipulate the pelvis and the spine so that your twisting, your rotation will be done fairly evenly on the axis of the spine. So what I'm trying to get at here is that what sometimes happens is we have this really deep flexion pose and we're trying to twist here, but part of the strategy is don't worry about twisting really deep yet. First, build the ability to try to sit up really tall and vertical. So when you use your hand on the floor behind you, you can kind of push against this hand to bring your body up. And if you take your arm, your left arm, and grab your knee, you can create a nice, safe, secure, comfortable spine twisting position where you won't have a whole bunch of flexion in your spine. You'll be able to get your spine a little more upright. And once you have this upright positioning and you're holding the leg, now you can work rotating and working a little deeper into the twist. And we take the rotation all the way up into the neck. And the top 2 vertebrae of your neck are called atlas and axis, C1 and C2. The atlas spins on the axis. So we literally have a situation where the rotation happens due to this this rotating motion at the top two vertebrae, you do have the ability to rotate the spinal column through the movement of the facet joints on the transverse and spinous processes of your spinal column, your vertebra, your backbones. However, we just want to create a nice, relatively even rotation, so you're not putting all of the twist just in the lower back, or there's not as much range of motion for twist in thoracic, but there's some. But the majority of the range of motion will be up in the cervical spine. And then you just focus on each segment, cervical, thoracic, and lumbar, and move to a level of range in all of those three main areas that feels comfortable. And you got to be able to breathe. If you go for a twist and you're like, and you're holding your breath, you got to back off a little bit so that you can breathe in through your nose, breathe out of the nose, and create a steady breath rhythm. All right, so now the next question often is, how do I make the arm wrap to be able to get the bind in Marichyasana C? And the bind is just like fun. It feels good when your shoulders are flexible enough. It does a phenomenal job of stretching out the arm that's wrapping the leg. That does a phenomenal job of opening up these muscles here, your anterior deltoid. You get a stretch across the posterior side as well, and your teres major, teres minor. All right, so with that being said, let me point out a few details. What we're trying to do, when I made mention before, is be able to get the body really, really close to the thigh. Once you have this proximity, very close contact of chest to thigh, our attempt is to take in this case, I have my left knee bending, so I want to get my right arm, aka, or also armpit, really close to the knee. Even better yet, what I want to try to do is bring my chest or armpit toward my knee, but also start to bring the arm down a little bit, because what will happen is as you start to make the wrap, when you go to rotate, the arm is going to slide up a little bit or a lot. And we don't want the arm to slide up and over the ridge of the kneecap. What we're going to attempt to do is keep the arm down low, make the internal rotation whenever your shoulder joint rolls inward like this. This is called internal rotation. If we take the arm and we open it up this way, it's external rotation. So we're going to attempt to internally rotate the arm that is wrapping. And in the process of internally rotating, the hand has to climb up on top of the straight leg thigh. I'm going to turn this way so you can see. When my arm goes up and around, I internally rotate. The wrist needs to go into flexion so that you can climb it up onto this ridge. Once you get it up near your right pocket, then it's in position for you to take your other hand and be able to connect together behind. Now, if it's hard for you to connect, it's possible to take a prop and use, like here I have a ring. I'm going to hold on to something, and that will give me a little bit of leverage to start working the twist. So is the bind essential? No, it's not. You're just going to work to the level of the bind that you can achieve. So don't kill yourself or cream yourself trying to get the bind. Again, focus on your breath and be able to breathe steadily in and out of the nose. Now, another a little bit more advanced concept, but let me bring it up here now, is that watch what happens with my leg when I go to make the wrap. I pull my leg in nice and close. For me to make the wrap, if I'm secure, I'm close, watch what I do with my knee. I'm going to take my knee and bring it inward across the midline of the body. I'm going to lean back on my hand so that my wrapping arm, when I lean back for the twist, I'm going to pull my stomach in, make twist, and then come as close to the thigh as possible. Let me repeat that. You have your leg in nice and close. You lean back on your hand. You pull the leg across the midline. You go the opposite direction with your arm. So you're kind of working in this opposing direction in the twisting motion. Lean back, draw your belly in. Keep the belly in as you come close to the thigh. Now I have my leg across the midline. I can make a wrap a little easier if I let this leg fall in toward this way. So now when I make my bind, but the trick is that once I've made my bind, I'm going to attempt to realign my knee above my heel. Now notice I can get my spine a lot more upright if I come forward this way, but when I go to bring my knee vertical, I got to lean back. My right hip comes down, so now my both hips are level, and I end up twisting back. Let me see if I can spin and show you what this looks like from the side. So see how I'm kind of like way back over here? It's not necessarily what we're attempting to do. We're attempting to get a little bit more vertical up here. So it's a balance of having the right hip down and leaning back, or having the right hip just a little bit in the air. Now, one thing you can do, one thing I learned from my teacher, Tim Miller, he was a fan of sitting on a blanket. And if you put a blanket on the floor and you sit down on the blanket, watch what happens with the hips. So like when I have my heel here now, I'm kind of leaning back and rounding. It makes it tough for me to get this twist. And if you have something going on with your back where putting that sort of pressure on the spine and the twist, it hurts, then sitting on a blanket will elevate your hips a little bit and allow for you to keep your the vertebral column relatively vertical, so that when you go for the wrap, you can keep this vertical alignment more or less and rotate from here versus being down and rolled back and in what's called, loaded flexion and rotation. So we have to, it's not so much that this one is loaded. Loaded means like if I was carrying something heavy while I'm like this, but it does load up some tension into the back in this position. So ultimately what we want to do, in my opinion, is be able to breathe, move the range of motion of the body, our muscle and our skeletal system, to where it improves our range of motion, helps us maintain our mobility, but doesn't cause pain and or dysfunction. And there's a fine line there, and it's up to us to figure it out. And that's why I'm here. I want to help you out. All right, so there's a couple of different ways that you can go about doing this. Let me just get one more tidbit of info and focus on the shoulder again. So when we're coming around, some of you are yoga teachers, and or when you're studying with a teacher, you might have the teacher grab your arm and they might assist you in the pose. So we need to create a communication where if I'm in pain and you're assisting me, I'm going to let you know. Vice versa. If you're assisting somebody, let them know that you want to know feedback so that you don't overdo it. And we do need to be careful with this rotation of them, because sometimes what happens, we get overzealous and we don't have enough proximity or closeness of this shoulder to the knee. And if we try to push the arm around like this, it puts extreme pressure into this kind of, it's called the long head of the biceps. It puts pretty strong pressure here. So we got to be really careful that we don't want to muscle it in and try to force our way in. All right, well, that was a couple tips for the Marichyasana C, and I hope that it helps. I'm just going to kind of oscillate while I continue to talk to you, and I'm just going to keep moving in and out so you can watch a couple different movement patterns while I talk. So remember to visit us on our website, nativeyogacenter.com. You can practice with us online. Join us here on YouTube channel, Native Yoga Center. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, go ahead and do that when the video is over. If you have any questions, remember, just send me a comment, question, whatever platform you're viewing on, and I will gladly answer you. And remember to have fun when you're practicing, in the sense of keep it lighthearted. And if you get into a really kind of deep patch, heavy patch, mental, emotional challenge, just be chill with yourself. Don't force too much, just kind of work in a way that you take good care of your spine and create nice healthy movement and motion. And another one of the great benefits of the Marichyasana C is the amount of abdominal compression. Like if I have a huge meal the night before and I come into practice and you really feel it in this one, but that's part of the benefit of the pose, is that it creates a lot of pressure and squeeze for the internal organs. So it can help us to just keep things moving and get some massage going on. It's like yoga in a lot of ways is like self-massage. It's self-care technique. All right. I hope you enjoy. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you every Thursday, 11:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern, live. Thanks so much. Namaste.